Ms. Matthews said, welcome everyone to our session today. We're going to be discussing, of course, what's been updated and where things are going here in 2025. Now, of course, I won't go through things that have happened, over the past 2024, all the months, but just the more recent things that have happened that you may or may not have started using yet. And already we are in the middle of January of 2025. So some things have already come out that originally would have been just on the back burner for what's coming in 2025. They're slowly starting to release a few things, but there's a lot going on for this next year. But there's a lot that happened in the last quarter of 2024 as well. So the first thing that I wanted to mention is a lot of the information that you're going to hear today and that you're going to see today is going to be really related to the announcements that Microsoft made back in November at what they refer to as Microsoft Ignite. This is kind of the yearly presentation that they do where they make the formal announcements of everything that is going to be coming over the next year. They don't always talk about what's going to go away and things like that, but they'll talk about, kind of the brand new things that are coming out. So it's usually a pretty exciting. I've been to it in the past. I didn't happen to make it this year. It's always held in the same location, which is in Chicago, Illinois, in the USA. But just so you know, we're going to be covering a lot of what they have brought up as being the most common. But I want to tell you that really what happened at Ignite this year with all their major announcements is AI is It's been a big part of using our 365 apps, but it is even going to be a bigger deal this year. They are changing the way Microsoft looks, the name of Microsoft, where we used to call it Microsoft Office. We don't even use the word suite anymore. We have that in our title, but it's a general term. But in the new version of Microsoft, it's going to be Microsoft 365, and Copilot is Copilot 365, but we'll get to a little bit on the branding. But there are definitely some new products coming out, but there's major enhancements that are also happening to products that were just released. So they're making some major strides. So anyway, as you can see on this particular slide, a couple of the things that were big announcements that they were talking about is the enhancements of using agents within Microsoft Copilot. We'll get to what agents are. And by the way, if I can't demonstrate something because it's not released or I don't have the release of it yet, instead, I will show you a video so that you can see a little bit as to how some of these features are going to work, because not everything is available to the public yet. And some of these aren't coming out until later in the year. So of course, I won't have access to those specific features. But there's going to be features related to Copilot that are going to enhance the way that we work. Microsoft is really taking a lot of time and a lot of money putting it into Copilot to help the everyday workers to be able to work more efficiently. We are seeing huge strides in less errors in our data entry and being able to know what it is that we're supposed to be working on and when we're supposed to be working on something. So they're really making some major changes to that. And they gave us little snippets in the fourth quarter of 2024 of what they're really doing across the board. So we're going to see some of that here in just a minute. But when it comes to, what's going to be happening, if you go to the internet and see anything about new or enhancements, you're going to see a couple of things that I wanted to clarify so that everybody had a good understanding as to what this means, because I have them in the handout as well. But they'll say it's in public preview. They'll say that it's in general availability. So public preview is really an environment where some people will have access to it. Some people who signs up to be able to see things right away when they're released, it doesn't mean that it's a foolproof product. It's always like every time there's a new version of Windows that comes out, a new version of whatever. Back in the day, we never wanted to jump on the bandwagon and be the first people to update it because you knew Microsoft was going to come back and make a few fixes after a while. Well, they've gotten, of course, better at doing that. So they will put things out in public preview where if you're signed up to be in that group, you could see things first and then give your feedback to Microsoft to let them know that this is issues, why does this do this, and kind of give them feedback so that they can make changes to things before it goes to the GA, the general availability. Even when things are in general availability, what that means to us as users is it depends on your license, because there's different versions of Microsoft Teams. There's premium, there's the free version, there's, the paid for version, whatever, or Copilot. There's a lot of different versions. So some of these features are going to be depending upon your licensing. So I can't, or if your organization turns the feature on. So I can't guarantee that everything that you hear about or see today will be readily available to you. It's going to be up to your organization to implement these. But just wanted to give you that side note before we go too much further here. So one of the things that I wanted to mention is, what are some places that you can go to get more information on a regular basis? Because sometimes you'll come into an application, like I'm going to show you today. Yesterday, I had a huge change to Microsoft Teams. I was in Teams because I'm in it all day long, and all of a sudden my Teams closed and then reopened. It's because it automatically did an update. And I have a brand new feature that I just got personally yesterday, so I'll be demonstrating it today. But there are some specific websites that are available that can be helpful to you to know what's going on. And there's ways to find out what's new in an application and get more information about using the features that are new. So just so you know, I put the web addresses, a link to those web addresses at the end of your handout. So for more information, I gave you a few links. So a couple of the links that I actually shared with you is going to be the Microsoft Roadmap. This is a website that you can go to specifically say, I want to see what's going on with this particular product. And it can tell you all the different changes that are happening to that product. So if you're wondering if they're going to be fixing a glitch or whatever the case might be, this would be one place that you could find that. There's a couple of them that I'll be mentioning throughout, but this is another one. This is the Microsoft Community. And this is where you can find blogs of information about what enhancements are happening. It's really a nice little article, short articles that will let you know what's coming up and different things like that as well. It's more user-friendly than the roadmap. The roadmap can be very confusing sometimes because it's giving you everything that's going on. So even if they were fixing a security issue or whatever, you're going to see all that in the roadmap. I think this is more of an end-user friendly place to go to see information. So I like the community side of things. So we can just do a search for whatever it is that we're looking for. And there's quite a few other ways that you can grab that information as well. But I'll show you a few other sites as we kind of go through. But what I wanted to kind of mention or kind of start with is talking about a couple of things that are going to be changing to make sure that you are aware, because they've made some announcements on this. But when it comes to changes that are going to be happening this year in 2025, they're going to be transforming the way that we analyze our data. It's a very big feature that is definitely a part of Copilot, but Copilot with these new agents and things that they started introducing, that's going to be enhanced quite a bit. We'll go through and show you a little bit on that. But I really wanted you to make sure that you understand a couple of different things, because we're going to be talking about specific apps today and how these apps have some enhancements or what's going to be coming with these. And I wanted everybody to know that Oh, I got to get this screen off here. Sorry about that. This needs to be on this side. I'm sorry. I had to move something out of my view there for you. But Microsoft Teams has a new version. And I wanted you to know that as of July 1st, the old version will no longer be available. So be prepared. And if you've been kind of, shy about switching over to the new Outlook or switching over to the new Teams, you're going to need to do that. Those types of things, they only give you so long, and telling you, hey, there's a new one out here. Everybody is going to be forced to switch over to those. Also, say goodbye to the support for any of the older versions of the Office. So if your organization hasn't updated to 365, Microsoft will no longer be supporting those products as of October 14th of this year. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. You're going to find things like that, news information like that, as to, when is a product support going to end and things like that. You'll find that on that roadmap website that I gave each of you a link to. So just so you know, that's available for you to see. So let's talk about the branding. So Microsoft is already starting to make changes to their branding. If you have the new version of Outlook, that was an introduction to you of what Microsoft is doing over the course of 2025. They were trying to give it to us in baby steps. They have been saying for the past couple of years that they wanted because they had huge complaints about, I go to this program, it looks like this. I go to this program and it looks totally different. They're trying to have a universal user interface. And you're going to see a lot of those changes here as I demonstrate a couple of things here for you today. So some of the changes are happening now. Some of the changes will, of course, come in baby steps throughout the rest of the year. But a couple of the things to know, they're going to be changing the URL again. I swear they do this every 6 months. But for the new Microsoft, which is M365 is their abbreviation for everything now. They're getting rid of the Microsoft365.com and Office.com. I know I used to just go to Office.com and it would take me right to my Microsoft account. That is changing. So it's going to be redirected. So you're going to want to have your shortcuts or anything changed. It's going to be m365.cloud.microsoft.com. Big long URL. So just so you know, that's going to be happening. The Microsoft 365 apps, the suite of applications, you're going to see some changes in that. You're also going to see there's actually more to this that I'm going to mention today because some of it we do not have. But here's a list of some of the features. And I'm a little disappointed on one of these. The My Day feature is being removed from the application experience. The users will no longer see the button to launch the calendar and the to-do on the Microsoft 365 app. So they're making changes to the ribbon, the icons, where you go to get your settings. They're going to be switching things around. They want a cleaner user interface, which they've been working on that for quite a few years. Just so if you think about this, back 3-4 years ago in Excel, we had and Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, we had so many icons all over the place and so many commands everywhere on the screen that it was very cluttered. It was hard to know where to go to do things. They're really lessening what it is that you see. And all applications will be consistent on where things are located. So if something used to be at the top right, it might be at the bottom left now. Just so you know, there's going to be some changes to that. I know I've had people tell me already that why do they have to keep doing that? Well, the way that it's developed in the background, they can't push everything out at one time. So everything is coming in baby steps, but it'll be okay once we get to everything. I'm going to come back to that video here in a second. I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk about what are some things that have already happened in our main applications. So first off, in your Microsoft 365 applications, and if you are looking at your handout, this would be on page 2. There is a new Outlook, as I mentioned. There is a new Microsoft Teams, but there's some major changes that have happened even since those new versions have come out, have been released. And I wanted to start with Outlook. So when we come into the new Outlook, you have your navigation on the left-hand side, which is consistent with all of your other programs like Microsoft Teams. We have more integration to our other 365 apps. And if you are a task user of the old version of Outlook, that is gone. Um, it was telling you for a while that, we need to kind of get familiar with To Do and Planner because they're the new features. The old Outlook task is gone. So it's not going to be on your navigation pane on the left. But other things that have happened on this navigation on the left, which is fantastic, is we have Copilot. So Copilot is readily available on the left-hand side. But there are some major things that I really want to make sure that you do understand when it comes to working in the new Outlook. The new Outlook by default is taking advantage of the reading pane, and there's a reason it does that. Let me give you an example. Because if you are a Copilot user, Copilot has been enhanced and it will continue to be enhanced. But when you are clicking on an email and you have a conversation going on, we don't need all those tools on the ribbon anymore. If you look at the ribbon when you're in an email, you have less tabs going across the top. We don't need all that. But so just so you can see on the right-hand side, if I go to reply to an email, I don't need to open this in a new window anymore to have access to all the features because I get a new tab that gives me my message features. So these are all my tools that I would normally use when I'm replying or forwarding a message. Or I have my insert tab, and we don't have as many features like we used to. We used to be able to insert just about anything like in Microsoft Word. We don't have that anymore because we weren't really using all those features, so less is more now. We have a format text tab, which has less formatting than it ever did before. We also have the options tab. The options tab has the same features that we used before, but we always don't have to go there to get to the things that we use on a regular basis. And a lot of people have been complaining that, well, I always used to use the delay delivery. Well, when you're creating a new message or responding to a message, go to the send icon, click on the down arrow, and you can schedule the send. That's where it is. It's conveniently located there. You don't even have to go to the ribbon to use the features that people really use on a more regular basis. So I think that Microsoft has really done a fantastic job on the changes that they have made here in Outlook. Now I'm just going to go to the top right and click the delete icon, and that is your discard. That's if, I started a reply, but I'm not really going to reply, it will cancel that. We have built in, of course, Copilot every place, and summarizing an email conversation is one of the biggest things. So right at the very top of this message, I have summarized with Copilot. It's going to automatically look at that message, the whole history of it, because sometimes you have like a 2-week conversation going on in one email. It's going to summarize the entire thing for you and give you quick, easy access to asking Copilot for more information. So I can just click Ask Copilot, and it's going to open up the Copilot pane on the right-hand side. And that has been enhanced. It's giving us different prompts that are more related to what we would be going in here for. So they've made some major changes over the past couple of weeks, even since the beginning of January of 2025. They've been making major changes to Copilot. But just so you can see, that's just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. But the other thing that I really wanted to mention right now, and I'll get into a little bit more on this a little bit later, but is the calendar. When you go into the calendar, there are major changes to what it looks like when you go to create a new event. And by the way, we used to have an event, we used to have an appointment, we used to have a meeting. Everything is now just called event. There really wasn't a need to have 3 separate things. So anyway, let's say that I'm going to do a meeting for later on today. I could go directly, of course, to that day, to that time, and I could click my mouse. As soon as you do that, it automatically gives you a new meeting. It gives you the basic things that you would need. So let me walk you through this here real quick, because this is going to make sense when I go to Microsoft Teams, because there was a major enhancement yesterday. But anyway, I'm just going to say that I want to do a Microsoft Copilot meeting. I could put in who's required to attend. I could be putting in, and I'll just say my student one is required. It's searching for suggested times immediately when you put in somebody that is part of your domain. So as soon as I added somebody from my domain, it gives me suggested times because it analyzes their calendar. We don't have to go someplace else to see that information anymore. We used to have to go to the scheduling assistant. We did a lot of extra work that we don't need to anymore. But as you kind of look at this, down at the bottom, I can say this is going to be a Teams meeting. So if I slide that button over, now it's a Teams meeting. Otherwise, it's a normal meeting. But if I go to, and let me kind of go to the top right here real quick. I'm going to go to the top right and click on the arrow to expand this window out. When we go to expand that window out, you can see a little bit easier on the screen here, but it also opens up the calendar on the right hand side, which is the suggested times, and it will show you your calendar, and I could easily move this meeting up or down, and it analyzes everybody else's calendars as well to make sure it's going to be okay. But down at the bottom, we have our typing area. We have a minimized minimal is the word I really meant, a minimized menu of choices, because we don't need all that fancy stuff. And notice the tab at the top. We don't have very many features because when we're creating a meeting, we really don't need all of that. So just so you can see, I could go to the top left, click on the down arrow, save this as a draft, or I can simply click the send like we normally do. And I'm going to go ahead and click send on that. So I now have this meeting, and notice it's got this cute little icon next to it because it reads whatever event you add to your calendar, it reads it, and it gives it a little charm. Those are technically called a charm, the little icon. And so if I'm going to be doing a seminar or something, it can give me different charms depending on what it reads from the calendar. But there's a little bit more to this that I want to mention. This is in your handout, and I have a video that I'll show you with some of this because I can't show you everything because I don't have all of the newest features yet. They haven't been released, but we still can see when I'm looking at my calendar going across, here's today, and notice I got this little building icon. I have these icons at the top right of the day that your active day or the next day, and I can actively click on that to get a places card, and this places card lets you choose where you're working from. This is being enhanced. I don't have the newest version of what's coming, but this is going to interact with other new features that are going to be released. But right now I could just say I'm working in the office or I'm going to work remotely that day. It allows you to say, if you're working in the office, something that's going to be coming up, and I'll show you a video on that in just a second, but it will allow you to then be able to choose places, because we could say that we have, and every organization is a little bit different. Some people have a designated work area, some people don't. We have hybrid workers that sometimes share desks and things like that. So things have definitely changed in the working world. So a lot of this is changing as well to match with that. So there's going to be a feature called Microsoft Places that will help us to be able to choose, I want to work at this desk, or I want to work in this conference room, or I've worked for companies, I've done training at companies like Airbnb. I was at their headquarters, and they actually have yurts that you can actually reserve to do meetings and do your work in there or whatever. So just so you know, this is going to be enhanced, but as of today, this is what I have. But this is going to change, and I'll show you that video. Now, the reason I wanted to kind of do a meeting is to show you that we have that same feature in Teams now. But I'll get to Teams in a minute. Instead, I want to go back to my slides here for a minute. Talked about that rebranding already. But here's a little video that I wanted you to see. It's showing you what I just clicked on. This is our places, and I forgot to turn my volume on. so that you could hear the volume, but it's going to be able to have you work collaboratively more with your coworkers to say, okay, here's a desk that's open, let's go and meet there. We're going to be able to have all of that incorporated into one specific area now. So instead of just going to that icon at the top, you saw how that menu expanded out, and it's going to actually give us a lot more detail than we've ever had before and be able to collaborate with our coworkers a lot better. This is the Places Finder. The Places Finder is where it's going to allow you to go into that from that window I was in, and it will allow you to, here's a map of your building. You'll be able to hesitate on specific areas, and it's going to be color coded so that you'll know what's available during a specific time, and then you can choose to block that. It's unbelievable. The way that we used to do things where we had to set up a room, a conference room as being a user on the network and all of that, that's all changing. We need to have things a lot easier for the end users to be using. And so those are a couple of great enhancements that will be coming. So I'm really looking forward to those. Okay. Now, of course, there's a lot going on with our other applications as well. I want to go to Microsoft Teams because there has been some changes. If you have switched, first off, if you have switched to the new Microsoft Teams, which it took me a little bit to do it, but I have it now and I'm liking it. Took me a while to get used to a few things. Left-hand side on the navigation pane, the biggest change that you're going to find is there's no longer an icon for Teams. Teams and chat are in one place together. So if I go to my chat, yes, I can see chats, and I can have people saved as favorites. So if I have conversations that I'm doing on a more regular basis, everything's about a right click. And by the way, right-click menus are changing. I should have showed you that in Outlook, but we're going to run out of time before too long here. But do a lot of right-clicking because the right-click menus, even if you right-click an email, you have different choices. You can turn an email into a task by right-clicking on an email. So I could spend all day just talking about changes in a couple of applications, but just so you can see, they've combined together the Teams and the chat to be in the same area. That less is more concept that they're going for. And they're kind of changing the way that the user interface is going to look. It hasn't been fully released yet. But just so you know, they're combined together. So I can see my chats and I can collapse and expand it. I can see my teams. We can even set up what are called sections and different things like that. And as you can see, if you go to something and right click, you're still going to get menus. But you're going to see a lot of new things like quick, easy access to workflows and things like that. So depending on what it is that you right click on, you can actually see that choices have been changing. So highly recommend right clicking. But if you've been looking for something, you wanted to create something new when it comes to a chat or a team, at the top right of this pane is where you're going to find a drop down for new items. So now this is where you're going to go to create a new message, to create a new channel, to create a new team, etc. A new section if you want to organize these into different aspects, categorize them sort of. That's where you're going to find that now, just so you're aware of that. But a couple of other things that I wanted to mention. I should have done a couple of things more in Outlook, but if I have time, I'll come back to it. But the other things that I wanted to mention is at the top right, change settings. Change settings is available now directly there. Related to wherever you're at, you can get into different settings. So right there at the top, I can get into change settings. So super easy to find. I'm just going to close that and come back, but just so you're aware. But the biggest change that you're going to find is the calendar. I gave you a screenshot in your handout of the message that you can get at the top saying new calendar. So if you look at my top right, I turned the new calendar on. I can turn it off at any time, just so you know, but I don't want to. I'm going to say stay in new calendar because I really like it. And when you look at this new calendar, by the way, it's Outlook. It's the Outlook calendar. I have been wishing for that since Teams came out because the calendar wasn't, it's so different from Outlook. Now they're the same. And if you're in Microsoft Teams and you go to create a new meeting, I know, Haley, I agree with you. I see a couple of other people saying they like that. This is an awesome feature. But remember I created that meeting a few minutes ago, that Copilot meeting that I was going to do? Let me show you if I want to do a meeting here in Teams. I click just like I did in Outlook. I click and it automatically gives me the same exact window. It's not different than it was in Outlook. This is fantastic. But let me do the arrow at the top right to expand this window out so you can see the full window. So let's say that I'm going to do a meeting and it's going to be related to new features. I'm going to say that it's a Teams meeting. So once again, we slide that button over to say that. I can put in who my attendees are going to be, and I'm going to do student one. Oops, sorry. I'm going to do student one again. I could, of course, change my date and my time. Notice that it gave me a tip. And this is great because if you're not familiar with something that's new, it gives you a tip to let you know about it. So it's talking about adding an agenda. But anyway, just so you can see, I could actually make this whatever I need, but it's also on the right-hand side doing the scheduling assistant. So we get that same scheduling assistant when you're doing this with coworkers. You have a menu going across the top where we can go into our meeting options. So instead of having that little thing on the top right that we used to get in Teams meetings, now we have a tab, an icon right on the ribbon that we can use to get into those Teams meetings. So we're not trying to read the window and figure out what things are. Everything is convenient. So anyway, just so you can see, there's a feature that I want to point out here. But when you're in the meeting access, you can set this all up prior to the meeting. You could go over to the roles, and when you add people in, what kind of role do you want those people to have? So if I want to have somebody as a co-organizer, but there's a new feature, and this is something that I think is kind of scary for me, but enable language interpretation. Once you have a coworker added, and if they're part of your domain, I think they have to be a part of your domain. This is so new, I haven't used it yet. I just got this feature. But what this allows people to do, as you can see, it says add interpreters that can interpret one language into another in real time. So if we have people we were just talking about French, if we have people that are attending your meeting and they only speak French, they don't speak English and I'm doing English, they can do an interpretation of your presentation, whatever you're saying, in their language. And it can sound like you. Copilot takes your voice and interprets it. It is crazy. So it's not someone else's voice. We can have it. I don't know if that feature is available for me just yet. I've just got this icon, so I haven't been able to test this yet. But to me, this is a little scary that it's going to take my voice. You've probably already heard about AI using other people's voices and things getting parsed together, kind of the bad side of some things. But this is going to be able to help with your meetings. 100%. I think it's going to be a great feature. We can search for who the interpreters are going to be once we have them set up. Like I said, this is a brand new feature. But I like being able to have this menu set up exactly the way our other menus are. So when we go into settings, this is the same menu. Meeting options now has the same, so it all looks and feels the same. So I can go into Copilot, all those kind of things. When you're done, you click Save. Oops, it doesn't like I'm going to discard my changes there. It didn't like a couple of things that I did, but just so you're aware of that. Now, this tip that I kept getting is down at the bottom, you can add an agenda in. The nice thing about this is a continuation from the beginning of a meeting, middle of the meeting, or during a meeting, at the end of a meeting. These things can be available. If you put in your agenda, you can do your meeting notes, you can have your follow-up tasks, those kind of things. And of course, Copilot can recap the entire meeting and have these features available for you as well. But wanted to show you that interpreter. So that's going to be a pretty cool feature. Now, I'm not really going to keep that meeting. I'm going to discard that. But I wanted you to be aware of the fact that both Outlook and Teams now work the same when it comes to creating a meeting, and the calendars are the same. Well, I shouldn't say 100% the same, but pretty close. Left-hand side, I can expand and show all of my calendars, just like I see all my calendars in Outlook. I now see them here. I wonder what's going to happen with email next. Everybody keeps saying, are we going to be able to get our email in Teams too? Might be one big program. But anyway, you can navigate your different dates by using the calendar on the left-hand side, so much easier. At the top right, of course, you can still switch to the different views that you want. We also have, of course, filters. They changed the icon for the Meet Now. We have new event at the top right, along with the drop down for these. So if you want to do a channel meeting, now you're going to come here. There isn't a button to slide over on the when you're creating a meeting in Teams. This is where you will need to go to do a channel meeting. Okay, then you can choose the channel that you want to do the meeting with. Otherwise, we still have the other ones, or you can go into view all to see all your choices. So just so you're seeing, this calendar is just like our Outlook calendar, and it's very interactive. I think that that is one of my favorite things that has been released so far this year. And like I said, I just got this yesterday. So I haven't had a lot of time to play with this new calendar, but I absolutely love it. I think it is one of my favorite new things. But anyway, let's kind of jump back into some of these. Matthew, did we have a question?
Yes, we do. It appears someone's wondering if you can attach documents through Teams meetings as well.
Yes, you can. You can have attachments to a meeting. You can be including things prior to, but most of the time people are adding them once the meeting starts in the chat. But otherwise, you technically can go into the chat and you can still add those files. But just so you know, when files and stuff are added in a meeting now, it's different. I don't know if I have any right here to show you because it gives you a shared instead of all the icons when you go back into your meeting that you have going across the top. It's just going to say shared, and that's going to be where all of the attachments and different things will be located at.
Right.
Okay, and so it's a little bit different.
And if you're attaching files via Outlook or Teams, it's going to be the same either way.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
So there are some major enhancements, as I said, coming to Copilot elements within Microsoft. Copilot actions in Microsoft 365 Copilot are going to be here to help us with repetitive tasks. So instead of having to go into our Power Apps to create things, because that can be a little complicated, but Copilot helps us, we're going to have these built in. What are the most common things that people want for an action? Well, I wanted to go and find an email from this person, and every time that it says this is a replacement for some of your rules, by the way, in Outlook. We're going to be using actions instead. Okay. We also have new agents that are coming to Copilot, and they're coming to SharePoint. So agents are going to be add-ins that are going to be specifically related to an industry. We'll be able to create our own agents to have them automate processes for us, but otherwise there's going to be agents that will be available as well that we can be using that other people are creating. Microsoft has them available that will help us to work with specific areas of different industries. So the new Copilot actions are going to be a menu that we can click on that we can then choose which action we want it to do. Similar to how we had the rules in Outlook, this is going to be a somewhat replacement of those rules. It is in private preview right now, so I don't have it. It's not readily available, but this introduction of the actions and the agents, as you can see, are linked to Outlook rules, but they're the AI version of how we used to do rules in Outlook. I don't know about you, but walking through that wizard, it was kind of confusing. It's going to be a lot easier now. It's choosing from a menu. It's much easier. But anyway, just so you can kind of see a little bit more on what exactly these are, agents use natural language and they're directly connected to Copilot, which allows us to automate those processes. Like the example, a customer service rep, they have a CRM agent, so an agent that is an add-on to Copilot that they can go to get details from a meeting that they had with a customer. We just basically go into this menu and say that's what we want, and it will automatically do those for us. So these are like little rules that we create that we say we want this to be automated. Okay, so anyway, it's pretty awesome. Agents are priced based on a metered basis, and IT can control those agents for us. So depending on, once again, your licensing and IT's allowing it so many people to be able to physically create them. So not everybody will be able to go back and create those, just so you're aware of that, which is okay, because do we need to? So this is coming from Microsoft Ignite, the announcement. Copilot will empower every employee to do their best work in less time and focus on more meaningful tasks. And that's coming from the Vice President of Microsoft 365. And agents created in Copilot Studio will perform everyday processes, helping companies streamline operations, enhance collaboration, and drive innovation at scale. This to me is, I'm getting the shivers thinking about everything that's coming. Of course, we don't have time to cover everything that's coming over the next few months, but it is unbelievable what's coming. I already talked about the interpreter agent. Here's a little example of agents in SharePoint. Agents are going to be a wonderful addition to SharePoint.
Your organization is creating more content than ever before, making it overwhelming and time-consuming for users to make sense of it.
I don't know if you guys
How can
are
you get
actually
answers and meaningful insights that help drive decisions quickly? With agents in SharePoint. Ask a question, and the agent generates responses from only the documents in your SharePoint site, folders, and files, so you can trust the results are relevant. Every SharePoint site comes with a ready-made agent that's specific to the site's content. And if you want an agent unique to your task or project, any SharePoint user can create and use their own agent in one click. Simply choose only the folders or files you need and select Create an Agent. Click Share to choose the colleagues who need access to the agent, and you're ready to make smarter decisions together. Or click Copy Link, paste it into an Outlook email, and send it on. You can also add your link right to a Teams chat, giving others instant access. Simply @mention the agent to get answers to questions from your content. Now you're all working with the same information live. When you and your team are in lockstep, you can act faster on key insights. Make the agent work for you by editing the default name, adding branding, and additional.
I won't go into any more on that, but I got to tell you that Copilot Studio, these agents, even if you're not going to be the person that is creating these agents, as that video was just showing, we can share those agents. This is a huge enhancement. This is going to save all of us. It doesn't matter what your role is at your organization or what type of organization it is that you have. This is the wave of the future. So this is something that was introduced in 2024 very briefly, but 2025, it's going to be blowing up. This is definitely an area that you as an organization want to think about. It isn't something that you just want people to go out there and start using. You really want to, just like releasing Teams and releasing other things, you always want to kind of, as an organization, have a plan of attack as to how you're going to do these and how you're going to use them and what's going to be best for your coworkers. But just so you're kind of seeing, this is major features that we're going to have available. So in the Copilot app, which by the way, it has a new window. So if I go into the Copilot app now, this is exactly what you're going to see. So we could go into work or we can go into a personal Copilot app, because there is a free one that is of course not connected to your 365. But I'm going to say I want to go to my work Copilot. So it knows my account and it knows all of my information and everything. Once you come into Copilot, give it just 1 second here. Sorry about that. I had this open, but, oh, sorry, didn't mean my PowerPoint to come up there. But once you come into Copilot, you're going to have a Copilot pane on the right-hand side. Notice the logo. We have a brand new logo for Copilot. It's got the M365, which will be added to all of your apps throughout this year. So the Excel icon will say M365. Word will have M365. It's kind of what they're doing. But if you notice on the right-hand side in this menu, it has the agent, where we can go into Visual Creator. You can get agents or you can create an agent, depending on your rights and that type of thing. But if I go into Create Agent, it's like creating it from a wizard. This is what I want it to do, that kind of thing. I can have Copilot help me build the agent. And then as you saw in that video, if it's SharePoint agent that we're doing, we can then share that agent with others so that they can be utilizing it as well. So this is really going to be a big push from Microsoft here in 2025, is to be using, and this is using Copilot Studio, is what the app that we use to create and manage the agents. So all agents that you have access to, you're going to manage those through Copilot Studio. So it's the app that maintains all of that and where we create them. So we can describe this, what it is that we want the agent to do, or we can go into configure and we can manually create it ourselves. So just so you see that that's what it's going to end up looking like. Now, I don't have any agents that I'm actively using yet. I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't had time, but I am super excited because I've talked to people that have been using those, and I've read a lot on what's going on with those, and it's going to be a pretty super cool feature. So anyway, it's going to be you don't need to know code, by the way, because Copilot is there to help you create it. So it isn't something that just people that understand code in the background and stuff is going to need to know how to. Everybody will be able to easily create agents. So anyway, just so you could see some of the options that we have, it can help with sales and support issues, opening hours and store information. We can use it for employee health and vacation benefits. There's so many different things that we can be using those for. Copilot Pages was introduced in late quarter 3, quarter 4, where when you are doing chatting in Copilot, in the Copilot app, you can send things to Pages. That is going through a major enhancement right now. I'm not going to show it to you. I don't think it's relevant for right now because they're in the process of making all these changes, and some of these are being released here in the next few days, but then there's a couple more that were coming in February. So there's going to be a kind of an overhaul of using Copilot Pages. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Copilot Pages, but basically when you are chatting, so if I even go back to a previous chat or whatever, any of the information that you are asking Copilot for, there'll be an icon at the bottom left allowing you to edit in Pages, and it opens a pane with like a piece of paper where you can be working with other people. You can share the pages and you can combine multiple conversations from your chat with Copilot into the pages so that you have everything in an organized fashion. But it's getting some major enhancements to it, so I won't go through any more on that for right now, but just so you're aware that we have that. So many things happening to individual applications as well, like Microsoft Excel. So Microsoft Excel, of course, will have new functions coming out. There's going to be some changes to the user interface in each of your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the user interface is actually going to be changing. But I wanted to just mention a couple of things that were released in the last quarter of changes that we had here in Excel. One of them is going to be the fact that I can select cells, go to the Insert tab of the ribbon, and from here we can actually add in checkboxes. So instead of having to go to your Developer tab to create checkboxes, we can have these, and it's because of my height of my row here, but we can create these checkboxes just by going to the Insert tab. There's a few other features that have been added in, analyzing your data. So if I'm selected inside a range of cells, I don't have to create the pivot tables. Either Copilot can do it, or I can just click Analyze Data, and it's going to automatically analyze that range of data that I was in and give me some things that I could use depending on what it is that you need. So to me, this is no-brainer stuff. It's like, yes, this is exactly what I've been wishing for. So I could say insert this pivot table because it analyzed it and gave me this as a suggestion, or that's pivot charts, all these different things that it can do to help analyze, or you can ask it questions. So it's working with Copilot through this new feature called Analyze. So you have to be within your range of cells, but just so you're aware. A couple of other things that I want to just quick mention. When you select a column or a row, this is going to be changing a little bit. We're going to get a little menu, a little icon at the top. But otherwise, as soon as you do it, if you move your mouse down, there. If you move your mouse just a little bit down, you do get the move handle. So if you want to move a column, you can just simply click and drag it. I'm going to say cancel on that because I don't want to override what was there, but you're going to see that move handle. So much easier. We don't have to cut and paste and do all that fancy stuff. We just simply click and drag. So those types of things. But as you go through, I mean, there's definitely been some changes to several of the tabs on the ribbon. So my recommendation is really, there's forms that are now added directly. It's just crazy, all the different things that have been modified or enhanced. But one of them that I wanted to mention was on the View tab. We have the capability, and I'm going to filter this list just to show you an example. I'm going to click OK because this is a live collaboration file, and you're going to find enhancements like this so that I could actually go and create a new sheet view that is only available to me. Other people don't have to see it when they're in this file at the same time, because if I go to a sheet and I filter it, it's being filtered for everybody that's using it. It can be directly saved to me. So this is a view that I can say I want to keep it. I could give it a different name and things like that as well. But just so you're aware, if I wanted to keep this as a view, I say keep, and it's going to allow me to then go back and forth into that view. We used to have custom views in Excel before, but they got rid of it. And this is a more intelligent option because of our live collaboration that we are doing with our coworkers. So because if somebody else comes into this file, they want to be able to see what they want to see. So this is just on my view. Anybody else opens it, they're not going to see this filtered list. It's just for me. So just so you know, that's, I think, a huge deal when it comes to working in Excel. But anyway, lots of different things are going to be coming to each one of your applications. Not too much so far has been released for Word and for PowerPoint, but there are definitely some things coming. Some of the websites too that I shared with you are going to give you what's coming, but you can also go to your Help tab. Like if I go into my Help tab, I'm here in Excel, you can always click What's New. From the Help tab of the ribbon, go into What's New. That's going to open up a pane. Come on. It's a little bit slow. Sorry about that. But it's going to open up a pane on the right-hand side showing you what's new. So it's telling me that here I can go in and I can see my current channel releases, learn more about features coming to my 365 by going to the Microsoft 365 Insiders, which you can subscribe to. So let me show you that. I'm going to go into this Microsoft Insiders. So it takes me to a website in just a second. Sorry about that. But once I come into this website, this is where I can actually dive in and see, here's what's happening. Here's security updates, here's history, here's file sizing. So I can go back and I can actually, and from here, I can find out what was released in December, what was released in November, etc. And I can go back and see those features and get more information about how they work. Sometimes you'll even have a video that you can watch to see how that new feature works. So anyway, just so you can see, there's lots of different changes that are happening to all, but the major things are going to be focusing on Copilot. That's going to be your major enhancements. There's going to be little things here and there like I showed you with Outlook. There's even more coming to Outlook. So if you haven't switched over to the new Outlook, get on board. You're going to love it. At first I was skeptical. I wasn't sure I wanted to do it, but once I did, I couldn't go back. I'm never going to go back to the old one, to the classic. And you only have so much time before you'll not be able to have that choice, but just so you know. highly recommend checking that out and use the new Teams calendar. So if you get that icon that shows up at the top right for the new calendar, you definitely want to be using that. Now, I'm going to leave it as this for today. Matthew, I got to tell you, I could spend a whole week talking about everything that was announced at Ignite this past year, but a lot of it is administrator related and security related. So today we really wanted to focus more on the 365 apps and where things are at, but these are just our main core apps that we use. There's enhancements coming to all of them, including Bookings, Planner, and To Do, Microsoft Project. Every one of them is being enhanced, just so you're aware.
Yeah, it's amazing where we're going with this. It's amazing how quickly things are accelerating. Things are becoming so much easier to use, so much quicker, and everyone can do so much more with these tools. I'm so happy to see the how universal it is now. There's definitely like a disconnect between new Microsoft apps and old Microsoft apps. So it's good to see that that's all coming together.
Oh, it's huge. I love it.
Yeah. I'd like to open up the floor. If anyone has any questions, feel free to turn on your mic and ask those questions. But if not, I'll give a couple seconds here just in case we have any questions. But if not, we can wrap it up for today. Thanks again, Jolynn. What an incredible session. For any training-related questions, please feel free to reach out to us at training@smartdolphins.com and visit our website to catch up on our upcoming events. For any other business inquiries, please contact us at info@smartdolphins.com. We'd really appreciate it if you could take a moment to leave us a review on Google. Whether that's for the webinar or your experience with us, it's a huge help. Simply click the link in the chat to access our review page. Your support helps us reach more people and empower them with the tools they need. Thank you again for joining us today. Here's a quick reminder of our upcoming events. On January 23rd, we'll be covering SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. On January 30th, we'll be covering cybersecurity critical fundamentals. And on February 5th, we'll be covering Power Automate for accountants, which is an event in which you are eligible for 1 CPD hour for attending. Please visit our website for details and registration. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.